Welcome to W.D. Gann, unlocking the secrets of his trading mystery. This presentation will provide you with an overview of the life of W.D. Gann, give you an insight into the mind of W.D. Gann, look at Gann's legacy for the 21st century, examine recorded predictions for Gann and others who have followed in his footsteps, and give you the opportunity to install a free Gann edition trial of Market Analyst. Known as the Master Forecaster, W.D. Gann introduced the financial world to a whole new way of thinking about market analysis. There are many in the trading community today that rate W.D. Gann as the greatest trader of all time. His ability to predict turning points in the market left even the greatest skeptics amazed. Many of his predictions were publicly recorded well before they occurred, and his trading ability was scrutinized by journalists who publicly recorded his astounding accuracy. Gann's discoveries opened up a completely new way of understanding charting of the markets. His life and his studies continue to influence many of today's traders. William Delbert Gann, the oldest of 11, was born on a farm outside Lufkin in Texas on June 6, 1878. His father, Samuel Houston Gann, was a teacher who traded in cattle and horses. Gann's family was poor. They lived in a small house where his mother taught him to read using the Bible, and it was the Bible that was to later influence his thinking on the nature of markets. As a child, he went to school for 3 years in Lufkin before leaving to work on the family farm. It was at the age of 13, while selling newspapers and cigars on a train in Texas, that Gann's interest in the financial markets first developed. Every day he would overhear conversations about the markets from the passengers. In 1902, Gann began his trading career, working in a brokerage house while attending business school at night. He also married his first wife and saw the birth of his first child. This wasn't enough for Gann, who hankered after the financial epicenter. So at the age of 25 he moved his family to New York, where he worked for a major Wall Street brokerage and began to trade in commodities and stocks. 4 years later he made huge profits by predicting the 1907 panic in stocks and fall in commodities. He divorced his first wife, remarried in 1908 and opened his own brokerage firm, and discovered his master time factor theory, which even in later years was acknowledged as his biggest discovery. Gann wrote his first book, Speculation, a profitable profession, in 1910 and produced his famous newsletters, including the Busy Man's News and later his famous Supply and Demand newsletter. In early 1914, Gann publicly predicted a world war and a panic on the stock market. Sure enough, World War I broke out on July the 28th. He also predicted the end of World War I and the abdication of the Kaiser in 1918. His prediction was acknowledged in many newspapers, including the New York Times. In 1923, Gann wrote The Truth About the Stock Tape, and 4 years later, at the age of 45, wrote Tunnel Through the Air, one of his most studied works, where he detailed many of his discoveries, with a catch. The book was written as a novel, and the discoveries were hidden in the book's storyline. Over the years, many have tried to unlock the secrets of this book, with few succeeding. In this novel, he predicted World War II and the attack on the United States by Japan months before it happened. In 1928, Gann successfully forecast the top of the bull market of 3rd of September 1929 and forecast that the greatest panic in history would follow. This was to be the start of the Great Depression. 1 year later he wrote The Wall Street Stock Selector. In 1936, the same year, he wrote New York Stock Trend Detector. He became the first person in the United States to privately own a metal aeroplane, which he used for his frequent travels to Cuba and to fly over and to inspect crops. He was now one of the wealthiest men in the country. In 1937 he wrote How to Make Profits Trading Puts and Calls. Gann publicly predicted that Germany would lose World War II in his book Face Facts America, published in 1940. A year later he became a member of the prestigious Chicago Board of Trade and wrote How to Make Profits in Commodities. In 1949, after he wrote 45 Years in Wall Street, the International Mark Twain Society bestowed on Gann an honorary membership based on the quality of this book. A year on he wrote The Magic Word. After accumulating over $50 million over the course of his life, W. D. Gann died on the 18th of June 1955 at the age of 77, and his legacy continues today.
I think he's one of the, W.D. Gann, I think is one of the great market masters of the century. Yeah. I think he'll go down in history. A lot of people just, they think they know Gann, they talk about Elliot and everything, but I think you've got to really study Gann and understand and know the history and all the rest of it, and then you just realise just how amazing this man was.
When looking at the life and studies of W. D. Gann, there is a question that frequently surfaces. What is it that Gann studied that is so uniquely different from anything else previously used to analyse the markets? We pose this question to a number of Gann experts here in Australia.